When I started to have the success, I wasn't used to it, but I always look back and think, why am I successful? How did I do this? And I always come down to one simple thing. I loved it.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Benary. Today I'm joined by Joe Wicks, founder of The Body Coach. In this episode, we talk about his journey from personal trainer to fitness entrepreneur. Joe details how he's expanding beyond his social following and YouTube presence to build the Body Coach app. Plus, we talk about exercise for mental health, helping kids in schools get active, and the importance of authenticity. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by Jack Taylor, our exclusive PR partner. More than just PR, they're creative storytellers and brand builders who actually understand the health and wellness industry. To learn more, head to fit.co/Jack Taylor. That's FITT.co/Jack Taylor. Hi, Joe. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, man. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm a big fan of the newsletter. So yeah, man, let's do it.
Yeah, likewise. I think there's a lot that we could talk about. Personally, I've really enjoyed following your story and evolution. I think the impact that you're having, the way in which you approach really, I think, purpose-driven and really mission-driven with getting people moving, inspiring them to live a healthy lifestyle is just that. It's inspiring, I think, both for individual like health and fitness seekers, but also with respect to this audience, like entrepreneurs and investors and other founders and trainers who are building health and fitness companies. But maybe if just as a starting point for people who aren't familiar, could you give the quick intro about you and the Body Coach in general?
Yeah, man, I'd love to. So it's quite a long journey. It's a 10-year overnight success story, I always say. So I started in 2012. I'm a trainer from the UK. Started out like any other trainer in a local park. I was running sort of boot camps, one-to-one fitness. It was difficult in the beginning, getting clients, getting people to come down and try out your classes. It wasn't easy. So I used to stand outside the train station in London and Surrey, giving out these flyers, trying to just get anyone to come along and sort of experience my boot camps. And from there, I really put in the effort. I loved it. And I've always loved it from the start. I really love helping people get fit. So once I kind of got that to a nice sort of, position, I had a nice little income. I loved being outdoors. I was really happy as an outdoor trainer. I saw, social media sort of coming around with Twitter and obviously Instagram. And I just saw this sort of movement where people were starting to share videos and recipes and workout plans and sort of PDF sort of ebooks and stuff. And I was really fascinated by that. I thought, wow, it's amazing that you can have a client in the US or Australia like following your workouts and things. So it's definitely a little light bulb moment where I thought, actually, I can reach more people than just the 20 or 30 people I was seeing a week at sort of the boot camps. And then from that point on, I really just loved social media. I loved the impact that it had. So if I shared a recipe on Twitter, seeing someone like go and get the ingredients and cook it, or if I shared a YouTube workout and I saw someone actually sort of doing that workout, there was a real sense of impact and instant kind of gratification that I saw from that. So I really began my journey on Instagram really with the Lean in 15, which was a concept for 15-minute recipes in a 15-second video. So there was at the beginning of Instagram, it's just 15 seconds. So I used to say, right, in with the coconut oil, in with the chicken, add the oil, add the add the spices, throw some broccoli in there, and that right there is Lean in 15. So that was kind of my hashtag and my sort of phrase. And that silly idea that started out as just an Instagram sort of concept for a recipe, went on to be a book deal, and I've now sold over 4 million books in the UK with the Body Coach, and it then evolved, into a sort of online fitness plan. So with YouTube, it was a free content platform, and then at some point along the lines, I developed a really basic PDF. I was around the time, literally just after Kayla. So Kayla was probably a year or two ahead of me, the incredible Kayla Witsinas from Australia, and that was super inspiring to see the community that she built, and I could see that engagement, and I could see what she was doing. So I suppose in terms of a UK equivalent, I was doing that a couple of years behind her, and I just caught that Instagram wave at the right time. I released the online fitness plan. It was called the 90-day Shift, Shape and Sustain plan, which was a 3-month plan, quite analog. You'd get sent recipes and workouts, and it was really literally no video, just images and stuff and words. And that product, 100,000 people signed up to that over the course of sort of 5 or 6 years, which I was super proud about. And then then I sort of evolved and released the Body Coach app, which is the next evolution. So now I'm really running a tech company with 35, members of the team. My brother, Joe Wicks, is the CEO, who I love, and we work together. So we kind of have this really amazing situation where he has all these incredible skills, vision and marketing and operations and sort of partnerships, and I'm just all about the content, and I'm just good at doing the workouts and the recipes and the community building. And I think because of that partnership, we've been able to create a really incredible company. And so yeah, we're at that position now where we're just trying to grow, keep reaching people in different ways. And my biggest achievement, really, aside from the business aspect, which we're talking about, is my contribution to the lockdown. So in the UK, I launched this thing on the first Monday of lockdown called PE with Joe, which was a live stream on YouTube. I did it every single day at 9 a.m. for 18 weeks. And during that whole process, almost every single family in the UK took part. So 100 million views over 18 weeks. It was more obviously global in terms of later on in the day, different hours of the day people would catch up. But in terms of live viewers, I was getting like a million live connections a day. So that really is my greatest achievement. I got people through a pandemic. I made them laugh, got them moving, I dressed up as a Spider-Man, Batman, you can name it. I dressed up, and I think I really help people through a difficult time. So for me, the mission is always how can I help people, move their bodies, enjoy cooking, and really feel good in themselves. And so that's really my north star in everything I do.
Yeah, I think it comes across. It's very evident, and kind of your passion for helping people jumps off the screen when you do see, some of these workouts on YouTube. Was it every day through the entire pandemic? I know it was, at least initially. How long did you kind of sustain this daily workout where seemingly everybody in the UK was doing these workouts along with you?
So I announced it on the Thursday night. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, announced, we're going into lockdown. And actually, on that Monday, me and Nikki had a school tour planned of the UK where we visit schools. I've been doing it for about 5 years. So before that, I'd really been building this trust and this kind of loyalty around the schools. It wasn't like a moment and I just got lucky. It was a lot more to it. And so I was about to go on a tour, and I said to him, like, I've got an idea, and we had done live streams before, like the odd Facebook Live and YouTube Live, but very few viewers. And I said, right, Monday morning, I'm going to go live. I'm going to call it P with Joe. I'm going to stream it through YouTube. And I was in my living room that morning. Nicky was in my ear on the AirPods. So he called me from his house and he could see the screen. I couldn't see the screen. He's like, Joe, we've got 300,000 people in the waiting room. There's 400,000, 600, 800, 900. So before I went onto camera, my heart is pounding. I'm so nervous at this point because I was thinking that's live connections, but there's also schools doing it. There's families. This is millions of people. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm going to choke. So anyway, I managed to calm myself down. I jumped in front of the camera, and that was it. That morning, like I said, almost a million live streams, and I did it every day without fail for 18 weeks during the first lockdown. Then it kind of faded out as people went back to work and resumed. But then we went back into a second lockdown, and I did it again 3 days a week because by this point I'm exhausted. And then in the final and third and final lockdown, I actually did another thing called Wake Up with Joe, which was more like it was 3 workouts a week, but pre-recorded because I just couldn't keep up with the lives. It was exhausting. So I was doing sort of three in a day, filming them and then sharing them throughout the time that we were still in lockdown. But it will always be my proudest achievement because to make that impact during a COVID pandemic, and it was really like my dream. It wasn't the right situation, but I had dreamed about getting schools and young children, engaged in fitness. So that was the mission, right? How can I get young people to fall in love with exercise and really take part and enjoy it? And that was it. I did that in the pandemic, and me and Nikki, we're so proud of that because it was kind of like our thing. We did it together. Every day he was in my ear and doing live shouts. So there was kids in, say, Australia or the US, right? We're going to say hi to Sam in Santa Monica. We've got, Dylan down in Sydney, Australia. And so it was live. It was kind of engaging, and that was amazing. So me and Nikki, we have to say it was both of our achievement, really.
Yeah, it was great actually. I had followed your career really before I think a lot of the maybe even social media, or maybe right as it began to kind of take off, fueled by social media, with actually some of the books and the recipes. And obviously I'm deep into and interested in like what's happening and who's kind of coming up and what that looks like. But one day we got a response to the Fit Insider newsletter, and it was Nikki, and he was saying, hey, I really enjoy the content, like keep it up. I noticed the last name, and then I started looking into it and realized that you are a brother team who's kind of building in this space. Also, my brother and I run Fit Insider, and started looking into it. Thought it was super interesting that the first thing basically that we were doing as well was hosting boot camps in the park, body weight exercises or dragging kind of kettlebells and yoga mats along, and just wanting to really get people together to move. And it was as simple as that. And organically over time, that has evolved, obviously, our path. the same goal, like how do we help people live a healthier lifestyle? In our case, supporting entrepreneurs and investors who are building companies that hopefully enable hundreds of millions of people to move. But you kind of continuing on this path as a brother team, each with your kind of shared expertise of, hey, how do we help people live a healthier lifestyle? And I think that kind of nugget sometimes can be lost in this, hey, how do we raise money? How do we build a bigger business? How do we build something on the scale of like the kind of brands, preeminent brands that we think about when we think about the fitness industry? How do you think about, or do you think about like what the kind of traditional fitness industry approaches solving this problem versus trainers and personalities and creators and, really, people who are mission and purpose driven, like who are just out there doing it? And how do you balance those two things as you continue to build?
I think when you talk about that thing about authenticity and truly being mission driven, it's almost like it's easy to say that, right, and really sort of say it on social media and talk about it in your marketing, but do you really mean it? And I think that the people that stand out in my mind, like when you think about Kayla and Cassie Ho, have built amazing fitness business, like true entrepreneurs, but ultimately come from a point of community and wanting to just engage people and have fun and really have that connection and be deep in the engagement with the content, and also the two-way conversation, the events, doing the meet and greet, standing in one spot. I do meet and greets where I stand on the spot for 6 hours without going to the toilet or getting a drink, because I want to meet every single person that pays to come to do an event. And so that's rare, right? That's quite rare because you've really got to love it. And I think because of the path that, say, Kayla's set and maybe myself in the UK, you see this path to success. You think, right, if I get 1 million subscribers, I can get a book deal and I can get brand partnerships and I can sell products. And I suppose it's kind of like I was there at the time where there wasn't any of that. We kind of led the way in that sense. We were kind of the first to really have success on a larger scale. And I think the people that will succeed now are those ones that really do stay focused on the mission and really do think about wanting to help people, and it breathes through everything from your website to your newsletter to your podcast to everything you post, everything you share in life. Is it about you and you looking good and how it makes you feel and your ego, or is it about the person at the other end of the line? And I've always been really obsessed with that in social media. I always think if I can just get one person today feeling good, like moving, going for a walk, nudging them to get out of the house, or showing them a recipe they might think that looks quite fun, and just getting the ingredients and grabbing it on the way home and cooking it. And so it's really clear for us when we have that vision and we're really focused on that, the success can come from that, because you really are just focused, right? It's like, right, what we're trying to achieve, is that brand partnership with LucasAid or, an energy company really going to help us get more people moving? And most of the time you just go, no, it's not right. It's not really what we truly believe in. But, there's so much, you know, opportunity out there, and there's lots of money out there, right, for companies to like really generate wealth, generate, revenue, and sell and have this big exit. And I see that a lot. And I am always amazed when I read your newsletter, the money moves. I'm like, wow, like people are raising tens of millions of dollars. People are backing these people with just an idea and very small, tiny brand. So it kind of motivates and inspires me that there's people out there willing to believe in someone's idea. But I think it really does come down to, don't just chase scale and numbers and views and kind of followers. Really go for that engagement, that depth of engagement, build true community where they will pay to see you. Like I do events where I do UK schools tours, which obviously are completely free. But when I do the P with Joe on tour, we do 6 cities in 6 days, 1,000 people at a time. We always donate the money to charity. We always, in the proceeds, it's not a revenue thing. It's a community building thing. And it's where I have the most fun. And it's where I know that I can go to any city in the UK and there's families with children, mums and dads and grandparents there to come and see me. And I think I built that really through P with Joe, through that, giving so much and giving something for free before you ask for something. So yeah, I do think brands should be really focused on that as opposed to get revenue, blow it up, forget about retention and actual engagement and people using the product. Just get them on it. And I actually think for me as a real North Star kind of thing, I don't want, millions of paying customers that don't use the app. We always talk about active subscribers, really using it. Are they using it once a week and then they disappear and they're not really engaged? Or are they using it 3 or 4 days a week and going on a true physical and mental transformation? And that's really what we focus on. And I think they're the companies that will succeed in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's really, sometimes you look at and we think about it constantly as we're kind of curating some of these deals that you talk about and the investment, and you think, who's using the product? Who's paying for it? What type of impact is it having? And there are all different types of numbers that you can come up with to justify whether or not it's working and to what extent. But to your point, when you go on a tour and there's thousands of people lined up to meet you and say hello and take a picture, like that that is the kind of success that in a very tangible way that I think a lot of these maybe they do try to replicate it, maybe they don't, but it's almost on a completely different level. And I wonder how you think about sustaining that in a world where even if you zoom out and maybe go beyond the kind of fitness world, when you think about content creators or personalities that are building brands that are largely based on kind of one person, it's exhausting. I'm sure that you feel that at times. You mentioned it during the pandemic, like you had to go to 3 days a week because it was like very draining for you. How do you kind of maintain that energy in a way where like you are the front man and it is you who are out there doing it without burning out or, kind of losing focus on that North Star mission?
It's definitely the biggest challenge we face as a brand because the body coach, and it's even weird for me to say as a brand because it's me. Like I'm the person. I'm Joe Wicks. I became the body coach. That was just my personal training name, and my vision was to be a local trainer, just get busy and have a nice direct debit boot camp business and be really happy and maybe do less hours and get pay a couple of trainers to come over and take some classes. That was all I could dream about because I was born in a council flat in Epsom. I didn't have visions. I'm not from a family of entrepreneurs or ambitious people. So when I started to have the success, I was like, I wasn't used to it, but I always look back and think, why am I successful? How did I do this? And I always come down to one simple thing. I loved it. I used to love cycling with my bike and trailer to the boot camp 5 miles away with the kettlebells and boxing pads because I just loved it. So that's why I kept going back. That's why I turned up everywhere when no one was there. I just thought, I love it. I'm doing it. Same with Twitter. I just like tweeting. I love sharing recipes. I love sharing a workout once a week on YouTube. Even now, to this day, we still do it. And I still love reaching out and doing a lot of voice notes and DMs on Instagram, on social media. So it's like that's kind of the driving force behind me. But yeah, there's times where emotionally it's draining because I get messages from people who have lost loads of weight and have transformed their lives. And I've got people who are feeling suicidal and depressed. And so you're constantly absorbing energy. That for me is probably the most challenging thing because I sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough and I'm like leaving messages unread and things like that. And that kind of gets to me. Um, but yeah, I think as long as I focus on the mission and I keep doing what I love, I'm not going to burn out. But I also know I'm not. I'm fully aware of my relevancy in the world. Like a musician releases an album and they bang that album out and it's like they're a legend for that album, right? But it's very hard to replicate that success. And so I know this is my moment. I'm having it now. I'm having this moment where I'm relevant. I'm helping people. People enjoy my content. But I'm not going to be this fit forever. I'm not going to be as fun and as relevant, as trendy, as popular. So I'm kind of aware of that. I really am, and I think that's important to be aware. And so now we're thinking, right, how do we bring in new trainers? How do I pass the torch on to a group of incredible trainers who, like me, are mission driven, not just about jumping on the bandwagon, getting loads of followers and selling the next fat loss pill and energy drink. Because you do see that where people get a little taste of success, they get a few 10,000, 20,000 followers, and they're doing the brand deals. And I understand that people want to earn a living, but it's such a short-sighted thing to do that. You just do not last. It's such a short thing. You make a few hundred grand maybe, and then right, you burn out, the audience disengage, and then on to the next person. So I'm trying to find people that are truly passionate, really mission driven, and that is a challenge. We haven't quite found those people yet. We've got two amazing trainers on the app. We've got a great guy that does like bar and Pilates type stuff. We've got a wonderful girl who does yoga, and so we're kind of hitting those demographics and those categories. But we've got to have more options, more trainers, more demographics, more diversity, and it's just a challenge. It's going to take its time, and I'm sure you're going to have some that do amazing and others that maybe it doesn't work out with. But yeah, I need to build a brand where it can survive in the future without me, in the long run.
Yeah, I think there's so many things in there, just like the self-awareness to recognize what's happening and to embrace it and to enjoy it. Because I think anybody, especially when you get into this mentality of, you know, really starting with something that you love, but then the kind of business aspect of it threatening to overtake, why you got into it in the first place and why you continue to do it and what gives you energy and maybe what you're supposed to be focused on. So then plotting that course in terms of like, hey, this is kind of a limited time opportunity. So let's do it and let's enjoy it and let's get to the fullest extent that we're capable of doing while also planning for the future. And really in this case, it's the Body Coach app, which when did that initially kind of get into development from, YouTube and a lot of PDFs and kind of digital workouts to then dedicated app, and where does that stand now in terms of, like you mentioned at the start of the interview, going from a personal trainer to now running a tech company? What does that encompass, and working with Nikki to build that kind of new vision and pass the torch into the future?
We launched the app actually in 2020, so it's been out a couple of years, and it's been incredible. Like Nikki was involved in the build, the kind of development. We had a great agency in the UK, like a London agency that sort of built the app. Over the past year, we've transitioned to having a full in-house team. So we've now got head of finance, head of people. We've got like head of growth and all these engineers, and it's a completely foreign world to me. Like, I can't even say I get involved in it too much because if I did, I don't think it would even happen. But Nicky's very focused and very driven, and he's got an amazing team of people around him. So we're now a tech company, which feels weird because, like I said, I was a personal trainer in a local park, just trying to get busy and get some clients and kind of do what I love. And now we have, a senior leadership team, and there's iOS, there's Android. It's completely changed. And one thing I'm really proud about is that we haven't spent a lot of money on marketing. So a lot of our growth is organic through the engaged audience that we have. And obviously, when you do 100 million views on YouTube for a pandemic, obviously there's a huge audience who loved you then. And when you've got this app, they're going to probably have a little look and check it out. So it definitely helped. But ultimately, it's a different business. And I'm just lucky that I've got Nicky as the CEO, because when I look at what he's under, the pressure he's under, managing people, even that alone is overwhelming. But I'm a family man. I can film at home. I can be traveling with the kids. I can take my camera. I can be at home and be the body coach. And truthfully, the thing I'm best at is really just communicating, right? So I have this amazing ability to get 2-year-old toddlers doing like a digital YouTube workout with animated cartoons. Then I have workouts for senior citizens, and I've got a 100-year-old lady. Like the other day, I got a message from a 100-year-old lady who posted, her son posted a message and a video to me saying that she just turned 100 and she wanted to thank you for getting her fit through the lockdown, and she still does your senior citizens workouts. And so I don't quite know how that's happened. I think it's just a communication thing that I make people feel welcome and that they're enough, and that it's not about you've got to be this fit and it's like do it this way or not you're a failure. I actually think I'm really good at helping people who feel like they're about to fail and give up. Just have a moment, recover, take some time, and join me again in a minute, and let's get through it. And I think that's a skill, right? I think communication's a skill. And when you go to a Barry's boot camp or a Peloton, and you see like the trainers that make you feel good and push that little bit harder are the ones you go back to, right? So I think that's incredible. That's really amazing, and I love that. And when I look out at the events we do, and I see toddlers in a PE with Joe t-shirt, mums and dads there with their babies in their carriers, and I see the grandparents doing it. I think this is mad. Like this is really quite unique, and so that's why we really want to build on that and build a brand that has a legacy that doesn't just fizzle out in 5 years when it's me and I had this moment in time and you sort of think, oh, do you remember the body coach? We did the lockdown workouts. But I want to build a brand that has legacy, that lives on and is helping people in years to come, even if I'm not the face of it and I'm not creating the content. That's the kind of mission, that's the goal.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to the show in just a second. But first, I wanted to tell you about our exclusive PR partner, Jack Taylor. Honestly, this one's a no-brainer. We've known the Jack Taylor team for years. They work with some of the most innovative health and wellness companies. We're talking Whoop, Athletic Greens, Hyperice, and many more. Jack Taylor has an extensive industry network, knows how to work with high-growth companies, and really invests in building long-term relationships. I know this firsthand because they're Fit Insider's PR agency, so I can confidently recommend them, and I do all the time. From startups to more established brands, they go beyond pushing product to help companies truly thrive. To learn more, head to fit.co/Jack Taylor. That's FITT.co/Jack Taylor. Now back to the show. I think that point around the different demographics, the different ability levels, the different, you name it, types of people that you reach, I don't want to gloss over that. I think it's really important. And I don't know, it sounds like you maybe don't know, but I certainly don't know from the outside looking in, like how you manage to do that beyond what you're saying, which is you are so authentically driven to do it, and you have kind of a gift, right, to be able to inspire people to move. But when you think about kind of the business of fitness and the even people who have been hugely successful as, kind of from social media, translating that into digital products, or, whether they're building gyms and billion-dollar fitness enterprises, like they kind of reach that same person who wants to exercise. They have the means, they have the money, they have the time, right? And it's really this kind of like fit getting fitter. And we're selling different products to like the same person, and what's new and cool and shiny kind of catches our eye. And maybe people are willing to pay for that, maybe they're not. But like you said, you can look out in the crowd, or I'm sure who's watching the videos on like YouTube, like the the number of different people that you're reaching. How deliberate was that in thinking about, because even if you go back to the recipes at the onset, it was like focusing on nutrition, keeping it simple, making it really accessible. I think you talking about the mental health aspects of well-being and exercise, all these things that we would point to in the newsletter as trends, right? Holistic wellness and nutrition and increasing access and aging adults and inactivity among kids. What level of that was like planning and thinking about, hey, how do I reach these people? And what level, or to what degree, was it just like you're going out there and you're putting it out there and that's who's kind of finding it and gravitating towards it?
Right, I'm trying so hard to remember. There were so many interesting points. I'm going to try and pick out what I can from that question because it was amazing. And also, I think you're right about certain companies. You think they just always going for the same type of people, and I suppose I obviously want to get super fit people fitter, and I love that. And I do really hard, intense, advanced plus stuff. But I sometimes see apps, they pivot and they sort of panic and they go, right, we got to add the assault bike into it, or add a rower machine, and put a Versaclimber into it, and you make it this thing that's kind of, yeah, it's amazing. It's probably a hard workout, but is it accessible to most people? And I've always been about accessibility, fitness for all, and making it available, and also, like sustainable. So I am a big fan of home workouts. I think, and I was banging that drum for 7, 8 years before the pandemic, and obviously lockdown came along, and I've got this channel with hundreds of workouts, so they're obviously getting loads of views. And the P with Joe thing also exploded it. And what it done was it actually got families for the first time who maybe don't exercise or don't do it in front of their children, doing it in the living room, bouncing around, doing Spider-Man lunges and bunny hops and being silly and having fun. And I think I made it fun, I made it accessible. And so it wasn't an intentional thing like I want to get grandmas exercising, but I thought, you know what, who's putting out YouTube videos for senior citizens, chair-based workouts, and just having a bit of fun of it and making them feel welcome. And I did a workout recently for I got contacted by someone at the head of a Parkinson's UK charity. So I thought, I don't know much about it. I thought that was something that boxers get when they're older. I went into the hospital in London. I had an amazing conversation. I interviewed the therapist, and she said, "Look, let's create a workout together." So we filmed a workout, and that workout's had hundreds of thousands of views, which is amazing. And so it gives me a little buzz, but it wasn't like I intended on doing that. But there has been a real shift for me in two areas. Number one, the mental health aspect. 10 years ago when I was, a young trainer coming out of a 6-week personal training qualification, I would never mention mental health. I had no confidence and no right to talk about mental health. I knew about fat loss, burning energy, and also lifting weights, and it was very basic stuff. But over the years, I've realized that the reason people come back to exercise is because they want to lose weight initially. Of course, we all want to change the way we look. We can't ever deny that. But it's the mental health benefits that keep you coming back, right? So it's the mood, it's the way it helps with your parenting, it helps with work, with relationships, stress, all these things we talk about now, which seems quite like common knowledge. But years ago, people weren't saying if you exercise, you're going to release stress from your body and feel good. There's science behind it. You'd be like, I exercise because I'm trying to lose weight and look like Julia Roberts, and that was it. And so that's really shifted in my content, in my messaging, and how I really believe the power of exercise is changing. And the second thing was a shift towards school. So I became a parent. I've got 3 kids. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 11-month-old baby. And I just really wanted to share like ways to help kids enjoy exercise and recipes that are going to help them wean from, the formula or breast milk onto healthy food. So I did a book called, you'll laugh at this, but I called it Wean in 15. So a weaning book in 15 minutes, which was really successful. And this wasn't like a vision. I might have a baby, do a weaning book. I was like, I've got a baby. How do you do this? So I partnered up with an amazing nutritionist. I learned and I shared, and the book's done really well. And now I really get most of my energy, honestly, truthfully, when I visit schools. So I'm going on another tour next week with Nikki. We're going to Ireland. So Ireland's obviously a separate island. We're going to do Ireland and Northern Ireland because we missed them out on the UK tour. And I love it. I run into the school, and I can only describe it as like, it's like when a kid sees their favorite pop star or football player. I run in and there's posters up everywhere. There's balloons. There's like music. They have kids playing instruments. It's crazy. And I run in there. I do the workout. And when I do the exercise, the message is simple. Kids, you might be stressed out tonight or today. You might be having a tough time at home. You might be a little bit overwhelmed and you're a bit stressed and you want to release it. This workout's going to do that. We're going to have so much fun. We're going to have loads of energy at the end of it. Let's do it. And I see the transformation. I see that transition of a child. I look out, they're not moving. They're really introvert. You can see, and I can really spot children going through difficulties. I can just tell that kid is having something's going on with him. And by the end of the workout, they're smiling, they're laughing, and something positive's happened. So when I see that shift, I hope that they connect the dots between movement and their mental health and their mood. And the reason that for me is such an important thing is because when I was a kid, you know, sorry, I don't know why I'm feeling emotional about this, but when I was a kid, I had a really tough upbringing. My dad was a heroin addict and my mum had OCD, extreme anxiety. And if I didn't have PE as a kid, like it completely changed my life. It saved me from all the other stuff that I might have ended up doing, drink, drugs, alcohol, because PE was like this thing I could release this energy. Run around and exert myself. And at the end of it, I felt so good and I could take on anything that was going on in my house. So when I think about the schools and the mission where it comes from, it comes from my childhood. It comes from me being that kid who I needed exercise. And, yeah, I think for me, like when I'm most motivated and driven, it's when I'm having an impact on the young people because I just see the world we're living in. I see the technology taking over and I see kids becoming more sedentary, more anxious, developing, mental health issues really at a young age. And so I want to leave a legacy in that, to be honest, more than just like selling a fitness brand. I want to help millions of kids love exercise. And that will be for me success in the long run, and an impact.
We need it's kind of an all hands on deck, I feel like, moment for just childhood inactivity, obesity, diabetes, spending way too much time in front of screens. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I think similarly that there's days where Anthony and I, my brother, talk about like, hey, should we just not close up shop, but like just think of a way to leverage this platform into opening gyms and run groups and workouts and boot camps for free for kids who need it and families. And how do we build towards a place where, we help basically, we spent a lot of our time, both of us were overweight as kids. Fortunately, we found football, American football, and I played in high school and college. Anthony went on to the Marine Corps. And so we were able to kind of navigate this world of discovering fitness and exercise and getting involved in it, helping other people achieve those goals. But when you look out there, it just seems like the the alarms should be going off and the red flags should be waving everywhere. And there's really not the concerted effort you think there would be for such kind of dire straits. So yeah, I don't know that I necessarily have a question related to that, but it just seems as though I don't know how that gets changed without kind of everybody collectively in society saying like this is no longer sustainable and we need to take, as I mentioned, like an all hands on deck approach to doing this. And it's obviously incredible that you're doing it, but I would say it's almost equally surprising that there's not even more kind of tours and people, organizations, policies kind of geared towards how do we go into schools? How do we go into communities that need physical activity and sports and recreation and like fundamentally change what's happening in our world?
When you talk about that and the stats, because I read the newsletter a few weeks ago on that thing you said about inactivity levels in the US, and it's just probably mirrored in the UK, right? Really upsets me, and I can only see it. I can only see it getting worse, right? I can only see those numbers increasing. Where, because it's hard being a parent. Right? I've got 3 kids, and it's really hard and it's stressful. And sometimes it's easy to give your kid a chocolate bar and a soda just to keep them quiet for a little bit, or stick them in front of Disney Plus and the TV for a few hours while you just get something done. Like so, I understand the balance and the conflict, but it's coming down to like parents, teachers, government, local authorities to put in like provisions that is it accessible? Is there somewhere kids can go and play soccer or play football and tennis? Is there somewhere kids feel like they can learn about nutrition and stuff? Because I don't think it's really taught probably in schools. And there's a lot of articles at the moment in the UK around it said PE hours like in the past sort of 10 years. 20,000 or something PE hours have been reduced from the curriculum because of various reasons. And this is my mission. And this is my take on it, right? I want intelligent kids that are academic. And I think it'd be great if they're smart and want to do cool things with their life. But it's not the most important thing to me. The most important thing to me is that my kids, enjoy exercise and are mentally healthy and strong and have resilience around that and understand the importance of good food and nutrition and enjoy cooking. So I get my kids cooking, I get my kids exercising, and we do it together. It's like, it's something that you've got to believe in yourself. So if you are a parent who's come from a sedentary home life and you've never exercised, you hate the thought of it, gym freaks you out, you don't know about healthy cooking, you've really got to work on being a role model and learning together and trying to pass that on to your child. Because if you don't, imagine trying to get a 16-year-old kid who's bang onto TikTok and PS5 to go and work out. It's not going to happen. This is why I go to primary schools, junior primary schools, as opposed to the secondary schools, because I think sometimes you've almost missed them and it's too late. So I go to young primary schools with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old children, and I'm trying to get them to fall in love. Because if you can get the child to like really think, oh, you know what, I actually don't like competing in like competitive sports, but I really like running around in the garden with my brother playing hide and seek or going around on my skateboard and scooter. Like that's movement. I really believe as well, like all exercise is good for you, and it's not just about hit and strength and like, doing competitive sports. And I think that's an important message to share with kids. But it is sad. It is really upsetting to see the numbers. And I see the challenge as a parent. And, I'm really conscious of it. A lot of parents aren't because they just haven't had the education. They're very sedentary themselves. So I think it's important that people keep banging the same drum, if you like, around mental health, and that it's not just about the weight loss and the whole health thing is a bonus side effect of movement and healthy food. But I think the biggest challenge, and I've always said this, is actually getting people to take the first step. Because even if I share like I'll give an example. I created this amazing series on YouTube called First Steps to Fitness. It's 6 workouts. They're 15 minutes long, and it's literally 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So you're doing 7.5 minutes of exercise. The first videos had, say, 250,000 views. Then it goes 150, 80, 70, 60, 20,000, because people still struggle to get through something, what I think so simple, because of life, because of kids, stress, depression. And so sometimes, no matter how much good, easy, simple content you put out in the world, the motivation isn't there. And that's what we found. That's the biggest challenge, right? Because even with the app, it's very simple to follow. But of course, there's a higher attention and retention, but there's also people that never do a workout. And I think, how can you pay for the product and never do a workout? It breaks my heart. It really does. And so I think we're always going to face this challenge of human behavior, of seasonality. We know January is a massive month. It boots off. Now it's September. We're going into September. It's going to be a busy month going back to school. People want to have another go. But there's months where, engagement drops, YouTube views drop, book sales drop, views on Instagram, because it's linked to like that seasonality of motivation. And I think you've just got to constantly like be banging the same drum, repeating the same message through podcasts, through TV, documentaries, through everything. Actually, just while I can mention that while I'm here, my documentary just gone live on Amazon Prime USA. It's obviously free thing to watch. It's called Joe Wicks Facing My Childhood. And if you want to see my journey around mental health in my childhood, it's a really nice way of kind of taking the conversation a bit further. So just if you want to check it out, it's on there now.
Yeah, absolutely. We 100% encourage people to do that. We'll link to it if it's possible to kind of direct people to it, maybe a trailer or something in the show notes. And yeah, I think all those things. And really, you mentioned starting people earlier, taking those first steps, but also not focusing on the outcome, focusing on the habit and kind of all those other things to end up taking care of themselves, right? You want them to be successful and motivated and to aspire to do great things in life, our kids. And really it starts with just empowering them with those foundational habits, their health, their mental health, giving them those things to go out and kind of take on whatever comes to them in the world. I also agree that it's incredibly important, and hopefully, we'll continue to shine a spotlight on it. And obviously, you're out there doing the hard work, but we could certainly use more people who are focused on solving this problem in particular. I did want to ask, when you think about the opportunity, the timing, you mentioned a 10-year kind of overnight success, and then really hitting it when it came to the pandemic, but you had years of this content that had already been created, and there's no shortage of people, right, who follow you from that exercise seeker looking to build healthier habits. But I'm curious to what extent other trainers, other people who own studios or fitness businesses kind of come to you and ask for advice, or, how do I do what it is that you've done, and what advice you might offer them. Because do you think of it as a kind of timing success, contributing to that success? Do you think of it as a combination of all these things that maybe you didn't initially plan coming to fruition? I guess what I'm asking is there any type of playbook or roadmap, or is it just a matter of like, consistently doing the work and showing up in an authentic way day after day?
I think, I think it's a great question to end on that. You obviously like how I built this with Guy Raz because he asked that question: is it hard work or luck? Right? And I always like the answer because it's a combination of both. And I definitely think I've worked my nuts off, but I was there at the right time. I had the energy. I had the kind of, the personality, if you like, with Instagram and the videos, and I just used that platform and just went for it. And I went all in. And but again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was building a community to sell things. And I always remember this one thing. I sent 20,000 tweets and I'd posted 500 videos on Instagram before I made a single penny from social media. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what was really driving me? What was making me do it? Because there wasn't a footprint and a kind of path to follow. When Kayla sold her company recently, I was like, that has blown my mind. I was like, unbelievable, fair play, like that's incredible. And I'd love to meet her one day because I think she's a true entrepreneur and she, and so it makes me think, wow, maybe I could have an amazing exit, but it's not the end goal. If it doesn't happen and I've helped millions of people move, like that enough, that really honestly for me is enough. So I think to anyone out there who's trying to build a community, don't think of it as like, I want to change the world and get millions of people exercising. Break it down to today. How can I get one person to enjoy what I do and to come along and see me, whether it's a workout at the gym, whether it's a boot camp or a one-on-one in person, or also online. Like, and I really think about that a lot. I think I just want to get one person today exercising or one person cooking. And because of that simple focus goal, I've had amazing opportunities. There's been great partnerships. I'm a brand ambassador for Lululemon, globally. And that's something that came, but not because I went, right, I'm going to get a brand partnership. I just built an awesome community in the fitness space and they came to me. So I think definitely be clear on that. And yeah, just stick to what you believe in. It's very easy these days with social media to go, right, that song's popping, that reel's trending. I've got to go and do that reel and dance around my living room and point to the things and I've got to do that trendy thing to get new followers. But it's not real. They're not customers. They're not going to buy your stuff. And so really stay true to what it is and don't be disheartened if something you post bombs and it doesn't do well this week. Because I have weeks where my recipes are getting 1 million views. Next week, another belting recipe gets 100,000 views. I never let that affect my ego and I never let it affect my motivation because I think don't get gassed when the views are high and don't get gassed when they're low and you're just fine because you just crack on, right? You're not really thinking about it. And I've always been that way. I've always thought about that. I've just thought, well, look, if no one likes this one and don't get seen and the beast that the algorithm is doesn't want me to share it with anyone, I don't think about it. So yeah, stay true to that. And also it's for any parents out there that are listening that maybe have teenagers or kids that aren't active in their lives and aren't moving. What I'll say is I really had the great story the other day. I took my little boy, he's only little, he's 3.5, round the block. We ran it 700 meters. He's moaning the whole way, he's whinging, he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. Yesterday, he asked me if we could go. He ran the whole way, and at the end of it, he said, Daddy, this feels amazing. So like there's always an opportunity to try something new and to be a role model. But it comes down to, we have to take control, we have to take responsibility because just like I need to look after my own health and my mental health, I'm also shaping my life, the future of my child's life by bringing him into it, by saying, "Come on, I'll take you around the block. It only take me 10 minutes." And the same with the cooking. It's stressful cooking in the house when there's kids around, but if you bring them in, make some pancakes, make some muffins, they cook together. You realize that that's a beautiful gift and a beautiful lesson that you're giving your child, and that is more important than any academic grade in this life. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think with that, and wrapping up, one incredible advice both for people who not only in fitness but are just trying to find their purpose, trying to find what it is they want to contribute, what they're excited to put out there into the world, and really staying focused on being true to themselves and building that community. And then, of course, for parents, just echoing, the importance of modeling these types of behaviors for anyone, parents, fitness seekers, just people who are curious. There's so many different places we could point them to: the Body Coach app, to the website, I'm sure, to social media. What's the best place to kind of follow along and keep up with everything you have going on?
Yeah, well, listen, thanks for the chat. I'm really enjoying this. I could talk to you for hours because I just love that you're literally in the same space and you've got the same mission. So thanks for your time. And yeah, I've got the YouTube channel. I post one workout a week. It's called the Body Coach TV. I'd love it if you are in the US to check out the documentary because it's a really open, honest documentary. It's quite emotional. Me and my family talking about our childhood and it's really raw, but it might help you if you are going through any mental health issues within the family. And then finally, yeah, the Body Coach app's there if you want to check it out. And yeah, I just love getting people moving. So, if you give it a go, I swear I'll get you moving and I'll motivate you through the workout and we'll have a laugh along the way. So, yeah, whatever you do, good luck. And with your business, with your training, keep at it, man. Just keep building. Don't give up.
Yeah, perfect, Joe. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited, to have this chat, but also to share the conversation. So thanks again for making time.
Thank you, Joe. Have a great day, mate.
One more thing before you head out. Help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fit Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.